What's up fuckers, it's Gamer011 here, and a lovely British chap all the way in England and I wanted to construct a real World War I trench map, where it mattered if you dared to pop your head over the trench soon after the Neville Knights map was released. Now, disappointing with its claim of being a trench map, we decided to make a new map in total. Crazy idea, right? I mean, since a guy who knows a lot of history, plus an Australian Dutch bloke who does YouTube videos, doesn't make the best combination. But, luckily enough, all of ideas we thought were applicable to the new map. Thus, I bring you Neville Knights 0.20. Now, before I go any further, I want to add that we'll be showing some images that can help portray some of our points, and because I'm an idiot, I may stutter, so for your benefit, there's a transcript in the description. Say hi! Yeah, so today we're going to be discussing the upcoming night map that focuses on trench warfare, Neville Knights. Neville Knights has the potential to become one of the most enjoyable and memorable Battlefield 1 maps. As of right now, however, it does not fulfill the role that much of the community wants it to be. Neville Knights is seen by most as a trench combat map, something many have wanted to see since the announcement of Battlefield 1, alongside night maps, conveniently. However, there are also some changes needed before it can truly be considered a trench combat map. First, there's the trench networks themselves. They do play a role in providing cover and allowing maneuvering between areas and objectives. This is fantastic, as when in a trench, you should only be exposed when raising up above the parapet to shoot at someone, exposing yourself in the process. However, these trenches need to be harder to access from the direction of the enemy's trench lines, as at the moment anyone can stumble into a trench unopposed without realizing whose trench it should really be. This is where the second change comes in. No Man's Land. A barren wasteland of craters and fallen trees with little cover. A killing field. That's the image provoked in the minds of myself and many others surely upon hearing these words. Going into No Man's Land was dreaded in World War I for good reason. It was indeed the final resting place for many unfortunate young soldiers. However, right now in Neville Knights it plays like any open part of any other conquest map. There's cover everywhere, which is usually a good thing, but in this case I think less is more. The only cover should come from an abundance of craters across the torn up landscape, and the occasional felled tree, with the church ruins becoming a safer route to access one side of the enemy's trenches, but not a capture point. The church could be made a point of contention if it held an elite kit. This would keep this area relevant and significant. There should, in my opinion, be only one capture point in this central section of the map, concentrating the battle into one small area and the slow progress towards and past it. This area will be heavily contested and fought over for control of the middle of the map. Combat in No Man's Land should be fierce, with every inch of ground being a struggle for control of the craters that provide the cover. Holding this objective would allow access into the enemy's trench, but that would be even a harder task. This final image here is actually of the area of Chemin des Dames, where Neville Knights is meant to take place, so now you can see what we really mean by historically accurate. Now going back to the objectives, to make this central objective harder to take, cover should be reduced, but also the two lines of trenches could be elevated slightly for two reasons. Firstly, this would allow uninterrupted fire between the two trenches, allowing snipers to pick off targets across from them who are sticking their heads out to shoot. And second, people in the trenches could shoot down into the central capture point in an attempt to take out any attackers. The destroyed tanks at the current dead steel objective would make good cover for the central objective, but when moving from a trench line to this objective, you should be very exposed apart from the craters and trees, allowing you to stop behind them for some little time. The first part of the round should be a frenetic skirmish in No Man's Land between medics and assault, while scout and supports remain in their trenches to provide supporting fire. One team will win this skirmish and seize the central point. Their next objective will be to penetrate the forward lines of the enemy. If successful, they will have captured the enemy trenches. However, if they are not successful, the other team may push back and take the central objective. If the map was more linear, this would be allowed to happen, almost like around the front lines but in Conquest. However, if the second attacking team leaves their trench completely undefended, they might find that their enemy may have managed to flank around behind them. The map's current dimensions don't lend themselves well to this type of combat. Reducing the north to south width of the map would allow for a more linear game style, like Suez or Argonne Forest. However, the open ground at only one commonly contested point would not result in hugely unbalanced games like Suez or Argonne. The single armoured vehicle would also be pivotal in pushing the advantage, distracting the resources from advancing infantry and helping to weaken the defences. This is how tanks were used in actual combat, breaking the lines of the enemy and supporting the infantry in their advance. One slightly larger change would be implementation of an entirely new type of engagement to Battlefield 1, a A simple tunnel network on one side of the map that comes in between the front line of the trenches and the rear line of those trenches would be a great way to add a flanking route and an interesting extreme close quarters section of the map. It would allow one team to cross all the way to the other side of the map comparatively unopposed. A few simple corners in the tunnels scattered about would add to the risk of attempting a crossing, as you don't know what may be around the corner. This might be too hard to add at this stage of development, but would allow for some interesting flanks and an extra lane to have to defend. Some previous examples of areas like this would be several tunnels allowing you to cross under the border wall in Hardline's map Double Cross, or Battlefield 4's tunnel under the Caption Border D flag, allowing access to the capture point from the river. Both examples allowed for great flanking options and tactical moves towards objectives. As I said earlier, Nivelle Nights has the potential to be great as it could become a true trench warfare map, where going over the top must be a conscious decision and each team takes turns in attacking and defending each other's lines. So in conclusion, the main change ideas: make the map less wide, elevate the front lines of trenches above the central capture point, reduce cover in no man's land to craters and felled trees, increase the size of the central capture point, line each trench with barbed wire and make every bit of land that isn't a trench torn up crater riddled mess with no smooth areas, roads or passageways. Thanks for taking all of this in. Hopefully, and if these changes are considered, they may be the steps in the right direction for this to potentially be a hugely successful map. DICE, please respond. The map's current dimensions don't lend themselves well to this type of combat. Reducing the north to south width of